crimes when you compare it to diversion or doing simply nothing. And just to say it here, because I think the discussions on whether to incarcerate juveniles are also ongoing. What are we going to do with the most hard cases? And I would just say the best study I have seen on the effects of juvenile prisons are a study done by economists, and they find higher crime rates for adults and lower educational outcome. Negative effects of putting children on the margin in prison. And on the other hand, we see positive effect of alternative sanctions. We see positive results when we look at, for example, comparing serving a short sentence on electronic monitoring instead of in prison. See positive effects on recidivism. We see positive effects on labor market participation, on relationships, and on education as well. There are things that we can do instead of putting young people to prisons. And I think, as you also said, there need to be the pull factor. There need to be the legal opportunities to actually engage in a lifestyle that's something else. So, the takeaway points I'm going to give you today is remember that children are different from adults. And they are different in ways that are important when we implement legal reforms and sanctions and interventions. Somehow, when we are debating what to do when crime is rising and we feel sort of moral panic about what to implement, we look at solutions from adults and try to put them on to juvenile offenders or minors as well. And there are system responses and interventions that have proven to be actually harmful and have unintended consequences to children. And we need to have do no harm, I think, as a headline, also when regarding the criminal justice system, not only in the health system or other sort of child welfare system. This needs to be the headline as well when we're debating on what to do with children involved in crime. And we need to plan the implementation of different legal reforms in ways that we can evaluate the effects. So we know what the effects are when we're doing intervention on these most vulnerable groups. I mean, otherwise it's just a social experiment. I'm not the one going out talking to people actually engaged in crime or having been through the whole system, but I have really nice colleagues who have been talking to exactly those children who have experienced multiple out-of-home placements, multiple system contacts with the criminal justice system. And one of the girls said, "It's like you can't get out of it. Move from it. That's what I want. I want to get out of it and have a decent life. I don't want to be constantly reminded that I'm kind of criminal." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Britt. I think we'll have questions and answers at the end of this whole session. So hold your questions until then. And I'm very happy to ask Katrín back to the floor and tell us about policy responses to youth violence in Iceland. I'll just help getting this one. Just start and I'll look for it.
Yeah, hi, my name is Katrín. I work for the National Police Commissioner of the Icelandic Police. And in 2024, we published a report about youth violence and different kinds of exploitation in organized crime, and also made a recommendation for new policy. So I have a lot to say, and I only have 10 minutes, so please contact me afterwards and we can have a chat. I have a lot of slides as well, so you will see me go through them pretty quickly. So this is the report that we published, and the focus was on young perpetrators from the ages of 10 to 17. The report had two major themes. So firstly, it was quantitative analysis of youth offending from the police database, and secondly, it was a qualitative analysis on organized crime and exploitation. So behind the statistics, there are lived experiences of children. So this was our first disclaimer of the report, that behind the numbers, we have actually children who live under different circumstances, who experience different kinds of abuse sometimes, and also are discriminated. So first, I want to begin with the picture that Markus had presented earlier. Thank you for that. So as you can see, in general, youth violence hasn't increased. So that's the main focus here. It hasn't increased. But you can see there's a drop in the peaceful area. And what's interesting here is that in 2014, the Crime Prevention Office in Reykjavik was closed. So we still need to think about, why was it closed? Are we seeing effect on that, how that went? And we also see that there's an increase in the age between 13 to 15 years old. And that is the same with other police data from the Nordic countries. So this age is very vulnerable to being both perpetrators and victims of violence, also according to Icelandic studies. So this is our main finding, this particular picture. You can see that overall youth violence hasn't increased, but we are seeing an increase in serious and major assaults. So this is for us, at this time, wasn't any news for us, but for the main public in Iceland was very much of debated as well. So as you can see, what includes major assaults is wearing of weapons, knives, major kicks to the head, etc. So for us, we needed to analyze further what is behind those numbers. Also, one of the main findings is the repeat offending. So as you can see, from 2007, 2015, 2023, we are seeing repeat offending. We are seeing more people committing more violent offenses. So the risks, we are also viewing the risks. So we have in Iceland been analyzing for the last 3 years more thoroughly risk connections to organized crime. So when we started analyzing it, we needed a framework. What is connection to organized crime? We needed a definition of youth exploitation. And we found it in the UK Serious Violence Strategy, a very good one, because this also states that there's a paradox to this definition, because you can also be a victim of a crime while at the same time being also the abuser. So I think that for us, that gives us, to have this kind of definition, an opportunity to process further our data. And when we are talking about connection to organized crime, we're also talking about drug trafficking and drug distribution. And I've been saying that a lot in Iceland. This isn't a new phenomenon. This has been happening for a while, for many years. We haven't been putting a framework to it in Iceland, but putting the lens of exploitation. So you can see here, this is the news from Iceland. We have an individual traveling between the countries, a 17-year-old with a lot of drugs. In the news media, there's no mentioning of potential exploitation. There's no mentioning of this being a child under the age of 18. This is only a suspect. So with that in mind, we need to reframe the whole concept of exploitation. On operational level, we also work with other colleagues in the police in OTF GRIM, which is operational task force aiming to analyze violence as a service. And I'm going to put this as an example here, because we have been analyzing this as a crime script. So you have here the instigator, the recruiter, the enabler, and then the perpetrator. And this is a good example to how Sweden, for example, is the secret mention, the targeted youth, the perpetrator of the penal policy. When in reality, we have the exploitation on 3 different levels. So we have the instigator, we have the coercion, we have the threats, but we are actually targeting our penal policy to the perpetrator, who is actually both suspect and a victim at the same time. So in our mind, this is an example of forced criminality. Just putting it out there, food for thought. So now, the crime prevention aspect. In the report, we made a policy recommendations And we were luckily, and this is a very positive thing compared to what the other Nordic countries have been saying, the Ministry of Justice and Welfare responded by launching a comprehensive action plan. So we're really thankful for that. The overall focus is the interdisciplinary approach and collaborations between different systems. So in 21, in Iceland, a new act on integrated services in the interest of children prosperity entered the force. The child becomes the heart of the system. And this is what we are kind of developing more and more in Icelandic context, is children are not small adults. Children need coordinated health services as a victim of sexual services as well. We need actions against violence among children. We need child-friendly and trauma-informed approaches across all actions. We need trauma-informed service systems, and this is the main overall focus. So the next steps I'm going to introduce, I don't have time to introduce the 25 steps, but I can if you like. No. I'm going to go through them until my time is up. So one of them is the strengthened interdisciplinary approach in cases of violence among children. So this is kind of the core principle of science of safety model. It's about building relationships. It's about the trusting partnerships between the different system and the child and the families. We also have a support now treatment resources of children and family agency. So as you can see here, the number of children on waiting lists for treatments in Iceland has never been higher. So this is much of action now. They are working on this very thoroughly. So what this is doing is we need to have more of treatment with children with severe difficulties. So we need to establish procedures for non-criminally liable children and resources for children who commit serious acts of violence. This is called the pathway, which is intended for youth who are completing treatment of BFS and have been convicted of violence offenses. So it's designed to help individuals transition from the protected environment of treatment facilities and also with a form of aftercare. So the fourth is review case handling and resources for criminally liable children. It's about also to examine how we should wasn't been done before the report was published. So this is a new initiative, and this is more about coming together, police, child social services, about finding new treatment plans. Strengthen community policing. This is also one of our goals, because community policing had a cutback. This is also essential to showcase. This is a picture from Instagram. Community policing, you have to be very mindful of how you present yourself as a community police officer. So I think different target groups, different kinds of community policing. And this picture is actually from the most marginalized area in Reykjavik. And it demonstrated that the police officers, they wanted to do an ice bucket challenge with children who don't have any trust in the police. So the reason why I put it here is this is a basic power reverse. So the children are allowed to not humiliate the police officer, but just play with them. So the police officers is sitting down and the children are putting water over him. So it's kind of it went viral, and it's a very good way of gaining trust as well. So we need to increase follow-up on offences committed by children and youth, and great emphasis must be placed on use of mediation by the police. Before the report, there was had never been done like a systematic mediation by the police. So now this is we are working on guidelines. And we have much hope for this. I have 1 minute left. I speak so fast, I'm like sweating. 2 minutes, okay. So we need to strengthen the Mobile Youth Center. Mobile Youth Center is called the Fleet. They target marginalized groups who show negative social behaviors, and they kind of establish trust. They come up with leisure activities, and they know what's going around everywhere. So we also got funding for the fleet in our recommendations. So we need to establish the standardized national procedure for screening violence and distress among children in primary schools. That was also one of our recommendations, and this is one that we have been kind of needed in a long time. So in general, this is the Child Prosperity Act. So I think what we are very positive about is the response that we got from the report. We can see that the Prosperity Act was also very good for us, because we can see that the child is definitely in the center of every legal reforms. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Katrín, and we'll continue with Elizabeth, who will talk about community policing, urban space and planning crime prevention in practice with experiences from Norway. Well, you're very welcome. Does it say Elizabeth? Yes. I should. Thank you so much. And there's the clicker.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And thank you so much for the invitation, and for yesterday also. I want to talk to you about a bridge. The bridge is called Nylandsbrua, and it's located in Grønland in Oslo. It's a beautiful but also an ugly bridge, depending on if you are an outsider or an insider. Nylandsbrua was built in 1967, and during a time when belief in the car as the future of urban transport was strong. Today, the demolition of Nylandsbrua is described as the key to creating better urban life in the area. Nylandsbrua now stands as a monument of the past. Today, as many cities prioritize public transport, cycling, walking, and advocating the thoughts of the American-Canadian author Jane Jacobs that said that the key to safe cities is the more eyes on the street. And the best way to get more eyes on the street is to have neighborhoods that have lots of reason for people to be on the streets. Although the area where the bridge is located, Grønland, is packed with people during most hours, the area beneath the bridge has been described as dark, ugly, and a breeding ground for crime. Let me describe the area, Grønland. It is a multicultural area. Many people, both from Oslo and beyond, visits Grønland frequently, using the restaurants, cafes, buying vegetables and textiles, and appreciating the authentic and unpretentious atmosphere. But many health services, including psychiatric services, services for substance users, are located in this area. Grønland is also a place that frequently makes headline stories of robbery, open drug scenes, violence, and stabbings. And the majority of the drug sellers are young men with minority background. Many of these boys are local boys, while others have loose ties to Norway. This group is often described as dangerous and unwanted. Interestingly, the residents in these areas doesn't necessarily want the drug dealers removed from the community. What they want to eliminate open drug trafficking and violence. They recognize these youths as our children. The individuals are boys who grew up in these neighborhoods, and many preventive services have known them since they were very young. The police have established a local unit to deal with the drug trade happening openly on the street, and the purpose is not only to combat drug trafficking, but also to build trust and relationship within the community. The bridge has somehow become the symbol of crime prevention in Oslo. Both politicians and developers and the police are lining up to tear the bridge down and transform the area. Make the area pleasant, safe, help those who live there. But not everyone wants to be rescued. Many people from Grönland feel that the gentrification has taken a top-down form and that their voices are not heard in the discussion about Grönland's future. There are now a big debate that opens up questions about crime prevention, urban development, power, and local democracy. What makes a good city and for whom? What perspectives underlie the idea of a better urban society? Property investors often offers makeover solution that local actors call it PR stunts and question who is really being heard. Many residents protest this one-sided negative image that is painted of their neighborhood, their village, as they call it. They feel that the developers and the politicians are often driven by profit, and despite their claims of preserving diversity and uniqueness, the locals fear that the identity and soul of this area will be lost in the cleanup. And here, the bridge has become a powerful symbol of what they want to preserve. Well, Mina Nyale-Jali, who has initiated several community-driven social innovation projects at Grönland, she says it like this. I believe we should preserve the Nylandsbrua and turn it into a gateway to the neighborhood. Paint the whole bridge gold and put up 2 large pillars like a portal. And then we will have a fantastic entrance to the area that people will notice. Freddy Larsen, who as a legend in the area, as a long-time hairdresser, he says it like this. Grönland today has everything. We just need to be a little cleaner and a little safer. Even when I started here over 50 years ago, we had people who fell outside the system. They were regulars at the liquor store and slept wherever they could. We must not become another Frogner, which is a very posh place in Oslo. There has to be room for everyone. And I was so lucky to meet the local youth council, and they created a film titled Grönland Behind the Headlines. The film was a reaction to the stigma that comes with growing up in Grönland. They want to tell the story of Grönland as they see it. And here are some quotes from the youth. Youth crime is misunderstood. Not everyone is a criminal. Grönland is so much more than that. I feel people where I'm from, youth crime becomes... When I tell people where I'm from, youth crime becomes the main topic. Grönland is dangerous, Grönland is where people get stabbed, and there's a lot of drug use and all that all the time. But I live here. I grew up here. Of course there's some of that, but Grönland is much more. There are lots of shops, colors, great food, so much to experience. When I walk around, I see childhood friends, their moms, their aunts. I call them auntie and uncles. I see Grönland as one big family. Everyone connected in our own way. Everyone's friendly, and deep down, no one wants harm. People talk to you. You get to try new things, food experiences you won't find anywhere else. That's what makes Grönland unique. If I had the chance, I'd ask the media not to exaggerate, because most people don't come here and see it with their own eyes. And the young people also had strong opinions about the Nylands Bridge. I've heard about the Nylandsbrua they're planning to tear it down. I really hope they don't. I grew up here in Grönland. I've seen the bridge almost every day. I feel like it's iconic. It's more than just a bridge. It's a part of Grönland. If you remove it, Grönland won't be the same. If there's too many changes, new buildings and stuff, I feel like it will destroy all of the culture we have here. It will be really important to me. Like I said, if I see all of Grönland as my family, if the bridge goes, there will be imbalance. Gentrification, things will get worse. For everyone who lives here, things will get more expensive and will be pushed out. Everyone who makes Grönland what it is will be thrown out, and that's really sad, because Grönland is a great place with all the people, the aunties and the uncles. These quotes promote belonging, inclusion, and they show that it affects people's pride of their home, of their community, when a place shifts from being a home and a community to being a crime scene, which the media promotes. Few things promote crime more than being excluded from the development of your own neighborhood. It affects people's sense of belonging and inclusion in society as a whole. The locals at Grönland want to keep the life and stir in the streets. They want to keep the messiness and the rough edges that they see in this area as a symbol of generosity and diversity. They want the police to remove the violence and open drug dealing, and the council to get the lights back on and clean up the trash. But they want those with power and money to work with them and not for them. And that is why this bridge is so important. It's a symbol of entering something different, something unique, something exciting and diverse. And as one of them suggested, why don't we turn the bridge into Oslo's version of High Line in New York? Because if you visit, and I hope you do, the bridge has a stunning view of the fjord. And let me end this presentation with the words of Mine and her description of Grönland. Grönland, home, belonging, a neighborhood with soul or not, depending on who you ask. On the street, I've lived, I've worked, I've been drunk, watched my dad fight, laughed, cried, argued, kept secrets, shopped, ruined chances, and chased after the bus. Grönland is where everything collides. Melons and cigarettes, hipsters and freaks, Mercedes and Ladas, full coverings and miniskirts. McDonald's burgers and kebab rolls with Thousand Island dressing. Same crap if you ask me, but still not. A regular Turk would smack you if you served him that in Turkey. But here, it's just how we like it. It's the kind of place where you wait 20 minutes in the line for a börek because the shop assistant has to finish her story to the customer ahead of you before she can help you, because multitasking isn't a thing at Grönland. Grönland is the place where you slalom between tomato crates, beer cans and lonely bikes wheel locked to the racks and lampposts, though the bikes themselves are long gone. And Grönland is where the line from the shelter stretches all the way to the police station, and there's no place in Oslo where more hash is smoked than right outside the prison. Nowhere in Oslo do I feel more at home. It's a small neighborhood with a big history and a big part of mine. But Grönland is changing. What will it look like in 20 years? Who's leading the urban development? And will we see skyscrapers towering over the Akers River? And will there be any sun left once the architectural quarter plans are completed? You see this. All these people we can learn something from. Grönland is not just a place to be, it's a place to live and learn about tolerance and generosity. And those are values every urban developer and politicians must understand the true worth of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And we have the last speaker before we have a question and answer session, and it's Detective Inspector Sampsa Aukio, very welcome, from the Eastern Uusimaa Police Department here in Finland. And after Sampsa's talk, there will be a short commentary by our District Attorney Mirja Østergaard from the same area. So welcome. Just put your slides up. That's it. Sulla on vähän enemmän aikaa.
Yes. Hello, I'm Detective Chief Inspector Sampsa Aukio from Eastern Uusimaa Police Department, and I'm the head of the investigation in the Juvenile Crime Unit. And Eastern Uusimaa Police Department is like one of the bigger police departments in Finland, and we have like a higher crime rate than many other police departments in Finland. And also juvenile crime rates, they are a little bit higher, or at least they used to be. Okay, this is the starting position. We have the number of investigation with the suspect, at least one suspect that is under 21 years old, so from 0 to 20 years. And these are serious crimes, crimes that have the maximum penalty of at least 6 years of prison. So we had like a rising number of crimes back in the day. Also, we are next to the capital of Finland, Helsinki, and also I already told that we have the high crime rate with the juvenile crimes. Especially the serious crimes were rising up until 2022, the police department decided to found a new unit. That's the juvenile crime unit. That I'm the head of the. I was founding that unit in our police department. So our operation started in 2022. So what we are doing here? We have like a centralized investigation unit in a police department. So all the juvenile crimes where there is at least one perpetrator who is a suspect that is between 15 and 17 years old. Every crimes will be investigated in our unit. Almost every crimes. So we found out that with the centralization there are many advantages. We have the whole overall awareness of the situation in the Eastern Uusimaa area about what the youths are doing, how is the criminal activity spreading along the towns that are in our police department. Also, we have the deeper knowledge on the personal lives of certain suspects, usually those who are committing the serious crimes. And we have the workforce we have, they are motivated and they have specialized on the juvenile crime. So they have they have been taught about the psychological behavior of the underage people and what are the limits, how you are going to interrogate them. You have to do the open questions more with the kids and so on, things like that. And one advantage we have with the centralization, we think that we feel that we have the responsibility for the young people of our area, and that is actually really important. And one thing that is feeding the responsibility is that if we are not making them young people to stop crimes, they are continuing to do crimes, and we are going to have to investigate them ourselves. So it will be meaning a lot more work for us. So we feel that we don't want to do that. Okay, basic principles how to prevent juvenile crimes. We have to do effective investigations. So we have to do the investigation as quickly as possible, because the time is working differently for the young people than compared to old. Everything is moving so fast with them, and the time frame, we were talking about time frame earlier, you lose the time frame if you don't investigate the crimes quickly. Also, we have to do, that is basically the same thing, but also we have to do like a good quality with our investigation. Also, we have to understand the overall individual situation of the suspect, so we know what is the right means to work with that individual. That leads like proportional actions, that the actions are in the right proportion, and we have the right timing when we know them better. Also, we are using much coercive methods like pre-trial detention, technically supervised travel ban, and a regular travel ban. Pre-trial detention is like we are basically putting them to the prison, wait for the trial. Technical supervised travel ban is that when you have like a ankle band and they know we will know the location 24/7 of the children, and they have the restriction where they can go and where they have to be and what they can do. Travel ban is like the technically supervised travel ban, but it's based on a trust. If you can trust someone, or it's a less minor crime, then more minor crime, we would use the travel ban. Also, we are doing much cooperation with other authorities like child welfare, social welfare, and healthcare, and things like that. So we need to have soft measures at the same time when we are using the coercive methods. Okay, the profile of young crime perpetrator. There are minor crimes and there are serious crimes. Minor crimes, we think that young people, we have heard that already, but we are thinking the same way. Young people are susceptible to taking risk. They are seeking boundaries. They want to be, and that is part of growing up. That is part of the emancipation, getting independent. It's normal to do that. So, in some extent, the occurrence of minor crimes is we consider it to be normal behavior. When we are doing the rapid investigation, when we make the basic investigation, nothing extra, but we are doing it rapidly, they usually don't repeat the crimes, and also they have often has the family or someone safe adults in their life that they keep maintaining the boundaries. On the other hand, we have the serious crimes, and this profile is a little different. They have usually they have many multiple problems in their background. They often have multi-generational development of social exclusion, so like their parents and so on, and everyone in their family, people in their family, they haven't found a way to be a proper part of the society. There are often neuropsychological problems with these people. The problem with coping in school. Also, the reasons might be above, as you can see. This results to lowest self-esteem, and when we are combining all of this, we have a lack of positive visions for the future. So this is one of the problems. They don't see any positive way to be in a part of the lawful society. So if nothing matters, you can do anything. And also there are often situations that there's a lack of safe adults in the growing environment, and also there is no psychologically safe setting of boundaries in their normal personal lives. So that this leads to acting without boundaries. And if no one is setting the boundaries, it often leads, it is a possibility that it will be leading that the people will start doing the criminal activity, participating in criminal activity. Of course, this is a very small percentage of the age group, but as a police, we are focusing the resources on this group. Okay, I told before that we are using coercive methods, but on the other hand, I don't believe that punishment would correct their behavior. In my experience, if you are punishing people, you usually teach them to lie and hide their behavior, not making the changes to the behavior. So why we are doing the coercive methods? I'm like contradicting myself. I think I'm not. There is if you want to have something to change, you need to have a crisis. It's like it's a psychological. In my opinion, I feel like it's like a psychological base that you need to have in order to get something to change. So we will need a crisis, and if you want to do a big change, we need a bigger crisis. As big crisis as the big the change is. So the part of the police is that we are providing the crisis, and we are meant to make this like coercive methods to feel bad. So now they have to stop what they're doing. They have to face. Oftentimes these people, there's no one before have forced them to face what they are doing, what their situation is. Now with the police officers, you don't get away from the interrogation if you throw a tantrum. You still have to answer all the questions. Police decides at this when it will be ready. So we are making them to face this situation where they are. We are showing the path. This is where the path you are at the moment will lead. And now you have time and opportunity to think about if this is the result you are aiming for. And at the same time, we are working with other authorities, childcare, welfare, social welfare, and things like that. And it is their responsibility to help the children go through this change. So the steps we want the children welfare to show the younglings, the young perpetrators, what are the positive visions of the future where they could be part of the society, legal society. And also they have to show the next small steps how to achieve it. What is the first 4 small steps you have to take where you can get to that vision, how you're going to reach that vision. And they have to walk the path alongside with the young person. Previous speeches, there was people were talking about that the problem with the other authorities is that it's difficult to find the timing and learn what is the right target. It was like finding the motivation and things like that. Now this is our police officers. We are informing the authorities. We are getting the time frame. This is the time window you can now. We are creating it. We are showing who is the target for your intervention, and with the coercive methods we are doing the motivation as well. This is the alternative. So this is like the principles I believe that are making these things, like in my opinion, it's working somehow. Okay, but there are still some people that these methods they don't work because the starting situation is really difficult. Like they have really bad multiple problems in their background, so this won't work with everyone. But still, majority of our suspect who we put in the pre-detention prison or angle band or things like that, they don't repeat the serious crimes until they have turned 18 years old. After that, we don't know what they are going to do. Accomplices, we are after that, if the people are repeating their serious crimes, we are targeting also the group around that person, making it as like that. If the young other people, they are doing crimes with this one person who is a problem, the repeater, every time they are doing stupid things with him, they will have to pay as well. So we are isolating the repeater from the potential accomplices. So the idea is that when you have no one doing with the crimes with the repeater, they will do less crimes afterwards. So that's like a one way or other. Either way, you have to do like, this is about the belonging. We are severing the belonging feeling. You have to find a new crew for where you belong, or you have to, who is not doing the crimes, or you have to find the people who are doing the serious crimes, repeating them. And that is the option we don't want to have, but that's only the small percentage of what's left. And also, if the repeater is doing the serious crimes, we are as often like to put them in prison, so they won't be in the streets getting into trouble that much. I showed the infographic in the beginning. What was the starting position when our investigation unit operated in the 2022. This is what is the development after that? Here we started, and this is where we are now. This is the serious crimes, and this is the starting point with all the crimes except in traffic crimes, and we are here getting declining trends with this, with our investigation reports. Kiitos.
Thank you, Sampsa. And since I heard you talk about or present your unit very recently, I just wanted to sort of emphasize, because I didn't hear it as clearly here, that then you were saying that this pre-trial detention is like the last resort for the most serious offenders, so that nobody walks away thinking that this is the way, that is the guiding principle.
That's correct. The responsibility for the child criminality, juvenile crimes is with the child welfare, and if anything else is working, then we have the options to put for the pre-trial detention. And also with that, we still want to have the child welfare to work with alongside.
Thank you so much. And Mirja, please go ahead. It's your commentary speech, and then we'll ask the other speakers also up for a Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Mirja Østergaard. I'm a district attorney from the same area as Sampsa. And those investigations and those pre-trial investigation records that the unit of Sampsa's produced, they end up on my table or my colleague's table. And I'm going to give a comment considering the benefits of this system. As Sampsa told, the unit was established in 2022. And we also have in Vantaa, where I work, a group of district attorneys who work with these juvenile crimes. So just as Sampsa, so it's just a particular group of district attorneys who then consider the charges for suspects that are within the age of 15 to 17 years old. And so I'd like to highlight three points concerning the benefits of this system from the perspective of district attorneys. First of all, I've discussed this matter with my colleagues, and we all agree that the quality of the pre-trial investigation records are in general of very high quality. And of course, we don't really know the reason for this, but we suspect that one reason could be that people working in this unit are very motivated. So they know where they are going to go and work with, they know what sort of crimes or suspected crimes they are going to work with, so they are motivated, and this of course results in good work and results. Second of all, we've noticed that there's a quite low turnover of people within this unit. So these policemen, investigators, they work quite a long time within this union in comparison to general investigation teams. And this in return, of course, results in the fact that people who are working in this union are experienced. And on top of that, then there is some unwritten verbal know-how that is transferred from one individual to another one and is also like kept inside this group. So this is of course speculations, but this is what we think and how we see it from the district attorney's perspective. Then the second thing that I'd like to highlight of the benefits of this system, that you have this certain juvenile crime unit, is that there's also a very high quality of the hearings of these young suspects, which of course relates to the first point. And as we already heard here today, children are different from adults, and you need to hear these children in a certain kind of way. The questions you ask them, and young people explain things in a different way than adults, with a different logic. And when you have people that are experienced and know how to hear these people, you get better results, and also kind of find out what really happened in the situation. And also with these juvenile crimes, of course, often the victim is also young, or either under 18 years old or even under 15 years old. And besides this, often the witnesses are also under 18. So it's very important that the people who are investigating these crimes know how to hear young people. And then the third point I'd like to highlight is that from our perspective, me and my colleagues, we think that the cooperation between the police unit who investigate these juvenile crimes and us is very good, because it's a certain group of people who work with these suspected crimes, and we know each other, and then it's like very easy to contact each other if you have some small questions. And we also have these regular meetings between these two units, and it offers us an opportunity to discuss problems like within the area or something with the investigation, and so we can kind of develop the investigation of these crimes. And we also think that with this unit there is a general view of the youth crime within this area, like Vantaa in particular, and different areas within Vantaa, so that kind of way we can stay on top of the situation and react then fast. Yeah, but as a conclusion, we only see benefits from the district attorney's perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to ask also Britt and Elisabeth and Katrín to come up for a short Q&A, and you can please remain here. And I think it's a clear call then for specialized police units, among other things, specialized in understanding youth and interviewing them, which unfortunately is not something we see in all police departments in all the Nordic countries, or perhaps in any. But do we have questions from the audience or comments? Or then you are, of course, also free to comment on each other's presentations. And we have a microphone there. Yes. Questions or comments are welcome. If not, yes, please, Päivi.
Thank you. I'm Päivi Honkatukia from Tampere University, Professor of Youth Research, and I would like to thank all your presentations and also the young people who presented here in the beginning. I think this is what they said, youth do youth better than adults. That's something that we need to remember, and also take into account that young people should be always listened to properly and genuinely. But I heard from your presentations also very much that adults should be responsible for young people in their areas, which is very important too. And I heard it from all your presentations that you try to work in that way, that we are responsible that young people in our areas would feel that they belong to these areas, and these areas are very important for them, where they live their everyday lives. And also, punitiveness does not work alone, but it might have some impact if we really care for young people. I've been thinking about this. There is this criminological theory on labeling that we nowadays use too little, and I think it's very important. We have been talking about the media as well, how negative portrayals of young people, especially those young people who engage in criminality, are portrayed. And they have this labeling effect, and we should get rid of that when we deal with young people in different ways, in different procedures, and so on. So I don't have any questions, just some reflections. Thank you for all your contributions. It has been a pleasure to listen to them.
Thank you, Päivi. I think that's an excellent remark. I don't know if anyone wants to comment. Katrín, please.
Yes, thank you. Good commentary. I think this is also something that we have been doing very proactively in Iceland. I've gone to 2 or 3 universities where I'm kind of putting the picture of the reframing of suspects of drug trafficking, etc., and that we are in a need of a reframing of viewing them as also victims of exploitation. And we have many high-profile cases where young girls are traveling between countries with drugs, and we are kind of painting them as these criminals. So I think that the whole reframing of the exploitation part in this is very important.
Absolutely. I don't know if yes, please. Oliko sinulla? Yeah. Yeah. There will be time to comment, but please go ahead.
Okay, hi. I'm Matti Rämä. I'm an investigative journalist with Suomen Kuvalehti magazine. A question mostly to the Finnish participants. Some time ago, it was announced that Finnish police is going to cut down resources from preventive work in the crime sector, meaning that you could step on earlier to try to steer people the other way before it becomes too late. I'm interested in hearing your experiences. Have you seen results of this somehow, and what are you expecting in the field you operate while you actually are already investigating more serious crimes? But the effects on cutting down the preventive work, what's your estimate?
In my opinion, this might be some sort of misunderstanding. It's like concerning more like the Helsinki Police Department that, and that the specialized group of preventive unit, they didn't stop doing the preventive crimes, but they're doing like a different way. And also, in my opinion, in my understanding, other police department hasn't followed that route. Probably they have been getting more resources in their preventing work, and especially with the juvenile crime work units. So it's like it's difficult to tell me how the thing in the Helsinki will turn out to be in the future, because I'm not working there, so I don't have the insight of that police department's business.
I could maybe add a commentary to this, having worked very closely with the police in many parts of Finland during the last more than 20 years. My impression is that departments may develop fantastically well-working investigative groups, as it seems that they are doing in Itä-Uusimaa, and I hope it continues that way. And then suddenly, when there is new leadership in the House, they might decide that now everything is changed and everyone is investigating everything. It's like this pendulum back and forth, and we've seen it in many police departments. And And I was recently attending a seminar in the Police University College where many very experienced police officers and investigative leads were discussing this issue, among others, together with experts from other countries. And there was a strong call also from within the police force for letting people specialize in investigating difficult, serious crimes, because it is indeed a profession that requires expertise, and the investigative interviews is, of course, a really big part of it. So it's quite, and I think the prosecutor, Mirja was saying that you see that there's not a big turnover. That's another thing we see in departments where things aren't, where people are not allowed to work with what they're motivated by, is of course that there's a high turnover. I also want to note I've been discussing very much with professionals or experts from Aseman Lapset, the children of the station, and Heikki Turkka can correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is that since the change in the Helsinki police, you have had much less contact with, or they have had much less contact with you in trying to really, which is a pity because together you've had quite a good view over where things are moving in Helsinki, where these youth are that we need to be worried about, and where, as you were saying, where the actual effort really needs to be put. So that's a bit. Just one more reference to Katrín's excellent talk. You said that, well, of course, in 2014 the crime prevention unit was closed, and then whoop, it started going up. So it's, of course, it's correlation. We don't know if it's causality, but it's an interesting remark. Yes, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I would just comment on, it's not all about investigation. It's very important to have special units, but in Norway, and it's probably also in other countries, we have these specialized police officers that work within the community with the youth, and how to communicate and how to understand them and their way of being, and not just reacting and controlling them, but building trust. And I think that's in Norway now. There's a bit concern about if we can keep these officers as youth officers and not just spread them out to being ordinary officers, because they have specialized and they have some competence and they have a mindset that I think it's very important to have, and that they can also have this culture that also can affect the other operating officers that are in the streets, that you have to meet the youngsters in a special way, not to exaggerate the conflict, but to, so they are very important, and I'm afraid they are not, we have to see if this development goes that way or that way to keep these officers.
We also have the predation crime unit like that. But their main focus is with the children of under 15 years old. So that is really super important that we are working with them before they are responsible for the crimes they are committing. So they have a chance to adjust before that, and after they turn 15 years old, we have really good insight from their younger years, because we are doing very much cooperation with that group. So we know we get the information what kind of child is turning 15 years old and what is his or her background.
Okay, thank you so much. I was just told now it seems to be time for fika, which is, funnily enough, now in Swedish in our program. So let's have a break, and there is a coffee outside, and we will continue at 3:15. And thank you so much. Thank you, Victor. And I wish to add to that since our youth participants were the first after the lunch break, we are happy to inform that they have a short video recorded greeting about their their paper, and we will be sharing that on Heuni's LinkedIn along with their recommendations. So we will be featuring them anyhow. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Laidi Surva. Where is Laidi? Over there you are. Great, I was getting worried. Very warmly welcome. We have been discussing a lot about the Nordic countries and whether countries are looking to Sweden for their policy reforms. And I think now it is definitely time to look towards Estonia, who have done very inspiring changes in their criminal policy related to youth. So warmly welcome and thank you for joining us today, Laidi.
Thank you. We are really happy to be considered a Nordic country and be invited. It's always a debate in Estonia whether we are Baltic or Nordic, and we want to express that we are Nordic. I'm happy to be here to share some of our experience with youth crime and building a youth-friendly justice system. And before I go and introduce the reform that we did, maybe just a little bit of our history. I'm not going to have a history lesson for you, but just to describe where we came from. So in the 90s, after the Soviet Union collapsed, we had a really high rise in crime rates, also in youth crime. And then juveniles made up a big portion of criminals that were active in the field. Many of the developments we had were affected by the economic and social background. So even though the collapse of the Soviet Union was a win for us, it brought with it, especially for young people, some challenges. For example, they cut down all on the sort of culture and then sports clubs where people or young people spent their time. So they had a lot of free time on their hands and not much money for spending it in a good way. So instead they would commit crimes, steal things. There were many broken families, which brings with it additional stress. So, you know, times were hard for the young people in our society. In addition to that, we had high levels of organized crime. And then as adults are really good in using all the opportunities, they also used young people to commit crime for them. There were many different types of crimes that the young people committed. I mentioned already property crimes, theft, burglaries, but also violence. And we didn't really have a good approach to juvenile justice. We had the old Soviet ways of reacting to crime, and the best reaction was to punish people in the hope that would actually change young people. And in addition to all that, we had the public perception that what we called the wild 90s, where children committing crimes or having a lot of crime was sort of normal for the era. So this is where we came from. But compared to the, nowadays in the 2020s, we see, I will also show you numbers, a drop in crime, especially in juvenile crime. We don't have, luckily, serious offenses committed by juveniles. And then we have basically no children in prison. The types of crimes are related to, testing out the boundaries, trying some alcohol, maybe taking your father's car and driving without a license. So these types of things. And then we don't have these, youth gangs per se. So gang violence or, group violence is not an issue in Estonia. our approach, and I'll get to that, has become from punishment to any other alternative, because we see that that works better. And of course, life in Estonia compared to the 90s has become better, so that also has helped us to bring about change. And we also put more emphasis on understanding what is going on, always measuring the things we do they actually have an effect? And we are, I think, if I say so myself, we are happy to admit that, okay, this pilot or this thing that we tried didn't work, fine, we'll do it another way. So, there's this culture of accepting that, making mistakes is okay as long as you go forward in a better way. Some numbers. We like to say that we are a very small country, 1.37 million people, but looking at Icelandic colleagues, we're a very big country. So, and compared to the Nordic countries, our age of criminal responsibility is 14. But we also have had the discussion of maybe we should lower it to 12. And every other, it comes up when we have, one serious crime a year, and then there's this whole discussion. But I have to hand it to our politicians. They are really good at, or we have trained them well, to say that punishment does not work. The children that we see committed crimes, when you look at their stories, there's always a reason why they did what they did. And I think it's, I don't think you can say it for all politicians all around the world, but in Estonia, we have the politicians supporting our policy, which we have given them. And then when you look at the numbers on the first left-hand side graphic, there's the number of crime and misdemeanors committed by youth. It's going down while the number of youth is going up. So if you take percentage of the young people who actually commit crimes, we have less and less children committing crimes, which is excellent. And then in addition to that, it's not only the young people, but we see the number of, I don't know if you've heard in your media, our prison rate is really low. So we have a lot of free space in prisons. But I also like to say, we're not naive. The crime rates might go up, prison rates might go up. So we're not going to close down a prison. We're going to help out our good friends, the Swedes, to help them out with a problem that they have at their hands right now. So I think these are the way. This is the way we should work in our area, in this region, because I think crime and problems and good things go in waves in different countries, and when one of us is doing well and the other one not so much, we can come and help each other. So how did we get there? How are the crime levels coming down, and what has been our policy? Our parliament told in 2018 that we have three main aims or a vision in criminal policy. First, that our criminal justice system is really fast and digital and really good, but it's also human-centered. So the person is in the center of whatever we do. Secondly, as I like to say, we really love children, but we don't want to see them in the criminal justice system. So we do whatever possible to actually never have them have their first contact with the system. And I will get to that later on. And thirdly, people who have been in contact with the criminal justice system, be it juveniles or adults, we want to make sure that when they are in our system, we do everything we can to make sure that they never return. So, and then this is a policy that's outlived a few governments, and we still believe that. And what does that mean for the juveniles? So the vision says that children and young people don't enter the criminal justice system. We bring down youth crime, which we have done, and then we make sure that whenever we face a child or a young person, in a way we go to their level. We try and understand what they think and feel and need, and then we act accordingly. We put a lot of effort on prevention, not only in the criminal justice system, but in education, in social policy, in sports, wherever possible, on the national level and local level. And then being compared to other Nordic countries, not a very rich country, so we don't have a lot of money to start social programs or innovate a lot, but being poor makes us really inventive. So we come up with things on a local level, making sure that we fix things locally as much as possible. And then, what we have to do nationally is make sure that when we have criminal proceedings, it's based on multi-actor arrangements. So we try and make sure that there are many people around the children who face the system, to make sure that we treat them right, and we also give them what they need. So, and this has been a real mindset change. It didn't go overnight. It took us some time, and I'll give you some examples later. But this is something we're really proud of. So I said, we want to have a special focus on children, treat them separately. I don't think I need to go into it in detail here today, because it's been stated many times today that children are not little adults. They actually do need special treatment because they haven't grown up yet, and it's not their fault. They're not, they're not stupid, or they don't know better, or they don't care. It's just that their brain hasn't developed that much yet. So we try and take that into account in everything that we do. And then why this is important? Because their brain is in the making. They are really susceptible to negative things, but they're also really susceptible to positive things. So we try and focus on that. And why we do that is, research has shown, and it's also been stated today, that, the younger you get them, the better. And it doesn't have to be, we're going to wait for the first crime and then we can, proceed the hell out of them. No, we want to help them as soon as possible, make sure that there are responsible, good, reliable adults available who know these people, these young people, and try and get them the support that they need. So our criminal policy, because of that, is focused on prevention, early intervention, and using, not only the criminal justice system, but the social and educational system, with the aim of, raising children who become law-abiding adults. But not only that, also hopefully happy adults who are happy in their lives. So what did we do? This is a very short overview of the changes, but I'd just like to show you that it's not only about changing the criminal justice system. We had changes in different systems. For example, we had the new Child Protection Act in 2016, which brought more order in the way we organize child welfare. Just as one example, child welfare is still a local level issue, but there's a national level coordination supporting, high risk case management on the national level. We had, in addition to that, a territorial reform. We had, I think, 2,076 local municipalities, and then we had 89, which means a lot of, restructuring, making sure everyone understands what their roles are. So it's a lot of work. And then lastly, we had, I don't know if you've heard of those juvenile committees. In the Soviet time, there were these hopefully really well-meaning adults. You would have 5 of them, sometimes 10 of them. Then you would have the one child coming to this, panel of adults who know better, who will tell you, what needs to be done. And then if you were really lucky, they also told you how bad you were. So, it's a system that doesn't really support good change. So we had all this going on, and then in 2018 we had the youth justice reform. So we had changes in our criminal procedure code, penal code. We had specialization in the courts and the prosecutor's office. We had new services introduced, which we didn't have before. And then in addition to that, we had some changes in laws to comply with an EU directive on procedural safeguards for children. So, and what we did in parallel all the time, even though they were sort of separate changes, we made it into one story. So everything we did was for the good of the children. Even though they were separate and maybe we didn't see eye to eye all the time with all the players, but we had this big narrative. And I think this supported us. And then we had the lucky fortune, thanks to the Norwegian Kingdom, who supported us with the project, to actually support the practical changes that we made in laws in 2018. So we were there for the specialists throughout the changes, to help them bring this into practice. And I will finish my presentation with a project we launched 2 years ago for young adults. And then this is something we learned, that the changes we made for children, and we are confident that they were good changes. We are now testing those out for adults up to 29 years old. So we're not treating them as children, but we are making sure that the system treats them in a flexible way, because we know that they made some bad decisions in life, but it doesn't mean that they're bad people. So what we did is, these are just some of the changes we made in legal acts concerning the criminal policy field. But what I wanted to emphasize is what was key in this process is we had a study first. We went through all the best practice of what should be done for young offenders. We went through all the international requirements that a good Nordic, European, Western country would have treating young offenders. We went through all the sort of analyzed the practices we've had in Estonia, going through the statistics, seeing what the problems are. So we made a big state of play analysis with, I think it had like 10 key takeaways that we should change. So we made the changes in laws. We had the practice changes with and the project supported that. And in the end of the project, we again measured. So it's nice what we did. We had a really, really good project. Some of you have been a part of the process, supporting us in our changes. But it's not only enough to have had a good time. We also want to see, did we really make a change? And we did. We actually, and I think the biggest win has been changing the take on children and young people. Instead of focusing on shame and blame, we now focus on responsibility. Like, what can we do to support you in taking responsibility for your actions? We focus on positive change and strength. So I think in the morning session, we, I think it was Marcus who said, we're very good at measuring the risks and doing all this, but we didn't really focus on the strength of the young people. So we focus on that now. We had the Ministers of Justice and Interior to agree that the proceedings with children will be fast and then, but not losing in quality. So, but we wanted to make sure that children who are in contact with the law go through the process quickly. We had a lot of flexibility for our police and prosecutor's office. And then I think the best, the prosecutor's office favorite change in law was in our criminal procedure code for young adults up to 21 years old, but also juveniles. They have what they called any other measure. So you can, finish the criminal proceedings, not send the case to court, and have the young person do anything else, to not pay for the crime that they committed, but have a chance to redeem themselves. And I think it's a very good one example is there was a possibility, the prosecutor said, okay, the best option for you, or what we see proposed to you, is you will be my work shadow for 1 day. So the young guy, I guess, if I remember correctly, he had a violent crime. He didn't kill anyone, but he hit someone. So he spent the day shadowing a prosecutor. And then his take from the system that day was that he wants to become a prosecutor. So if you think like, you're going through this process, you are the criminal, and you are offered a chance to see how the system works, and you want to become part of the system, I think we're doing it right. So another change what we made is, and it's the same, I think, in Nordic countries, but for us it was new. So anyone under 14 years of age, we would notify the local municipality. Not to tell on the person like, hey, I have a criminal here, but to make sure that they get the support that they need. And then, and it's now in our penal code that a punishment is the final resort. So you have to use anything else before you can actually sentence someone. And I think for judges, what is in the law is it's basically the same as Bible. So, some of the things you really need to put into law in addition to softly changing the mindset. So how did we get to the change in practice? We had the legal changes, and then we had a project that was based, that had sort of 4 pillars. First pillar was trainings and development. So, getting from bad children to children in need. And then I think one of what I would recommend to all countries is we had a big training program that lasted 9 months. But what we did is we had regional trainings with police, social workers, youth workers, prosecutors, everyone. We had a really, really mixed group, but regionally. So, they would use the coffee breaks to actually get to know the people who were there. They would build their own local network. And then we would make sure that all the specialists in Estonia would have the same sort of basic values that we gave them with the training. We had another sort of, it's not a technical change, but it's a really, really good change in the prosecutor's office. In addition to prosecutors, in youth cases we have consultants. And they are sort of like youth workers / social workers / mentor working with the prosecutor on a case. So they would come up with the young person. They would go through, what happened, why did you do that, what made you do that, and they would come up with a solution, with the young person and their family. And then it really has taken the workload off the prosecutor, because the prosecutor focuses on the criminal procedure, and the consultant can actually focus on the young person. And then on top of all of this, we had different trainings on different topics, making sure that oftentimes it happens that the same people would go to trainings, the same people always would go to study visits, but we wanted to force other people to also be part of the change. So we tried to work with the central units to make sure that everyone was given a chance. Secondly, we wanted to bring in some new interventions. So it's nice that our law says that you should use anything else prior to actually sentencing someone, but if there's no, or if specialists feel that there are no interventions available, these are empty words. So we made a short analysis on what type of interventions are available. They came up with 10 interventions that would actually work, and then the police took 3 of those. So it's the follow-up contact, 3 of future opportunities, and my favorite, provide your own solution, which means that you would sit down with a police officer, you would go through whatever the misdemeanor or crime was, and then you would tell the police officer, you know what, I did this and this and this, I think I deserve that type of punishment. And then it actually empowers the young person. It's not like a wise adult is coming to tell you what needs to be done, but it's more about, you taking ownership. I now need to run through the slides, I'm sorry, but it's just, I'm really passionate about this topic. I'm sorry. So third, we had evaluation and cooperation. So we tried and modeled different versions of, how can you build cooperation on a local level. And I think the key lesson we learned here is you don't have to have a finalized solution and go and sell a product. You build it with the local community. It's difficult, it's time consuming, but it pays off, really, it does. And then fourth, even though we try and not send children to prison or residential care, some of them still go there. So we wanted to make sure that the residential care has the same values, has the same type of training. They had again, time consuming, but a really, really good quality process of setting up the system in a way that when children come there, there are adults there, who know their things, but they're also good people. As I said, we also measured what we accomplished. If we can share the slides afterwards, these are all linkable. One of my favorite ones was the juvenile offender user profile and experiences. We do the statistics and we do the analysis, but we never ask the young people, so what do you think of the process? And one of my favorite things from the study was there was a young person who said, it's nice that we have all these people here. I have the lawyer. What's the point of the lawyer? So no one actually tells them who the people are in the process. What we learned is we made changes in the way that our specialists work. They were happy with it, even though the workload went up, but they were seeing real change in children. And then our aim was not to have any children in prison. We do have now, I think, 3 ones that they committed really heinous crimes, but we had a point in time when we had 0 children in prison, which is, it's really good. So what we learned is we do have many good things. We have the trained specialists, we had the mindset change, we have new interventions, we use a lot of restorative justice, but we are not ashamed to admit that there are still ways we need to improve. And one key takeaway is involve as many people from the beginning as possible, because then it's slow in the beginning, but it'll get you to the end. And I'm not going to tell you about this project, but this is what because we were so confident in what we did with children, we are now doing the same with young adults up to 29. And so far, it shows great results. So feel free to contact me. I'm really happy to share our experience, and then you're welcome to come for a visit in Estonia. Thank you.
Thank you, Laidi. I would not be surprised if you had quite a lot of people coming your way. I think that was very, very inspiring. And indeed, I hope we will all have the chance of looking towards Estonia in shaping these policies. The last invited speaker is our child ombudsman, Elina Pekkarinen, who will share her thoughts. And maybe I might point out for those who do not know Elina from before that she also has a PhD, which was very related to today's topic, and is also an expert in this field. So warmly welcome. And happens to be, we knew each other as children, one of my childhood heroes.
Thank you so much, Julia, and good day to everyone. My name is Elina. As Julia said, I'm the ombudsperson for children here in Finland, and I'm the past chair of the European Network of Ombudspersons. So I was a chair until last week, We passed the chairmanship to Moldova. So now I'm only the past chair. However, I must say from the European point of view that youth crime is something that is generally discussed in different countries, and I think that we are now in the top of the trend to actually have these general discussions together. My topic for my comment was actually the usual suspects and a question of why we need a right-based approach to youth crime. But first I want to take you to this youth home I visited this year. My duty as an ombudsperson is to move around Finland and meet young people and children and hear about their thoughts on different aspects. And this youth home is meant for children that have been in several places before they have been placed there. And this was a really, really big young man that was sitting there at the kitchen table with me. And actually he started quite openly right away to tell me about all the losses he had had in his life. First of all, his godfather had died. His mother, not a biological one, but the one from the foster family that he had lived with for all his childhood, she had had a heart attack. She didn't die though. His childhood friend had been tortured to death due to some drug issues. I don't want to talk about them for you because you might get in danger, he said. And then he had been in the court himself and got 2,000 euros of fines and also, what is ehdollinen? I always forget. Conditional sentence of a couple of months due to violent crimes. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, now soon we'll have a meltdown. And then he all of a sudden said, oh, fuck, how many losses have I had in the past few months? And I said, a lot. And then I thought, no, it's better to be quiet. But it was actually eye-opening for me as well, because many of these children have a lot of losses, but they don't want to be victims, though. I mean, he was a strong guy. He wanted to be respected, to looked up to, and he didn't want to dwell on these sorrows. He just wanted to share them. But that's something I very often think when I look into different research, when I think of the research I've done myself, that very often these young people have a background of severe traumas and very difficult experiences. And I think that is something we have to keep in mind when we try to correct them. As Julia mentioned, I've done my doctoral thesis on youth crime, but I've also for 10 years worked in the Helsinki administrative court, where they actually handle the child welfare cases, the ones where somebody is against the placement or wants to disagree on some other matter. And over there also, crime was quite often the main problem of the thing. Also problems at school, problems with the family, substance abuse, etc. were really, really common with these young people. Also, I've worked a lot with the reform schools. I can see Kaisa over there. And I think that is a system in Finland that could be generated to reply to these people's needs a lot more than it actually nowadays have. We've had the system for almost 200 years, not really 150 maybe. Yeah, I think it was in 1860 when the first reform school was established. And that system works wonders at its best. But there is always the risk of them becoming like these new youth prisons, and that's something we don't want to see. However, I must remind you, I heard Päivi, you said something about labeling theory, that youth crime and especially children that commit crimes have always evoked a lot of emotions in the society. It's because it breaks the image of an innocent child. It is unbearable for us adults, and it also causes a lot of reactions in the big audience. It is an easy way for the politicians to get votes, to get their voices heard when they say we will get rid of youth crime, and then the audience applauds. And we have to listen to these voices as well. I'm afraid that we cannot change that phenomenon because it's always been there. We are afraid of children that commit crimes because it's abnormal. It's something that we don't want to see. And that is why we also have to listen to the sort of frightened voices or panic voices or hysterical voices in the audience, in the big public, and try to sort of soothe or smooth the ways the politicians want to do it. And to be fair, I think that the Ministry of Justice has now done in Finland a very good job in balancing this we want more punishment and more control with the more social policy centered programs. Unfortunately, though, only the we want more punishment programs have received extra funding, and all the softer programs should be done with the same budgets or zero budgets as they have been done so far. I think that the preventive work is really important, but we also have to talk about what we do after the crime has been done. And I'm really thankful for Estonia. I have to say at this moment that my grandma is Estonian. And I always think of my grandma when I think of severe circumstances and difficult history, because I think there is the wisdom comes from seeing how the society turns out when you really take the harsh way. And that's probably not something we want to do here in the Nordic democracies. I made some little notions here in my little computer, things that you might want to take home and maybe think about a little bit more. Which I didn't hear too much talking about today, but which I think from my perspective that are really important. One is youth culture. I didn't hear too much talk about that. There must be something in that we have to look into. Markus, you have said to me that the researchers cannot keep up with youth culture. However, meeting young people and listening to them actually teaches a lot. I mean, it's not rocket science, it's cool things and kids hanging around. So I think there is a lot to learn. We didn't talk too much about child protection and child welfare. However, collaboration with them is crucial and critical because they are the ones that very often deal with these young people and their families, also prior to when the crimes are committed. So we have to, I think, talk more about child protection systems too. We didn't talk about desistance. What do we actually have to offer for these young people when they stop committing crime? In Finland at least, and I know in Sweden, the youth unemployment rate is horrible at the moment. There is no jobs even for the young people that do very well at school and do not break any rules of the society. What is the position of the young people that have been involved in the court order systems, etc.? That's really sad, but that's something we have to think about. Can we offer them any money? Hardly. Anything, motivating to do? Any feeling of belonging? That is something that you talked about, etc. So this is a big, big issue. What comes and replaces the crime? Kyle mentioned the structures of the administration. In Finland, work really individually. In the administrative court, it was really common that you got to know the young people. Oh, this is the one that messes up with this one. However, the decisions that we made had nothing to do with the group. They were totally individual. And in the worst cases, all the young people were spread around Finland into different institutions where they could build up new groups of friends committing crimes together, or meeting in Helsinki as they all decided to run away together and continue. And all the social workers and judges and everyone, expert members like me, were like, oh, we're just looking into this one guy or girl and his or her doings, and that's counterproductive. So I think we should more talk about working with groups and also meeting the needs, the true needs of the young people. In the very end, I know I have half a minute left. I want to remind you of the United Nations Child Rights Committee's General Comment number 24, which was published in 2019. You can find it in Swedish, in the Swedish Barnombudsmannens byråns webbsidan, and you can find it in Finnish in our website. And that actually concludes everything we talked about today, that we need right-based approach to youth crime, and we need it because it's actually productive and effective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elina, for excellent points. And now I think it's time for us to close this event. It's been really wonderful to listen to all of you experts, to our young participants, and there have been fantastic discussions over lunch and coffee breaks as well. We are preparing together with this group of researchers and experts what we hope will result in a policy brief, and it will be sent out to all those who were registered for this event. But I'm not going to make any promises as of when it will be sent out. I will, however, say that there are plans for a follow-up meeting with some political leadership, and these recommendations will certainly be shared with them as well. So we are again in continuous collaboration with Hanna Holmen, whom I thank from the bottom of my heart. It's really, really great to be here. So we will be continuing this collaboration to try to convey the message both from young people and from experts in this area on what might be better options for a decent rights-based criminal policy and interventions. Thank you so much, and have a very nice weekend.